Yeah, I need to go to this place that has llamas.
I'll make sure that I send you because they actually show, right, the whole company and they're bringing in the llamas and everybody It's incredible.
Welcome to the Customer Commerce Podcast, where technology's fast and biz is a blast.
In life and in business, time is precious. It's why customers stay or leave and why businesses succeed or fail. We're here to give a voice to everything that makes business, whether as a customer or as a CEO, easier and more rewarding. Welcome to the Customer Commerce Podcast. Let's dive in.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Customer Commerce Podcast. We have a very special guest today, another guest, which is smashing them out. His name is Scott Stafford. I'm saying it in a very Australian accent. I know it would be Stafford, would it? Scott Stafford?
Stafford, you got it, Jess.
Okay, good. He's a Salesforce certified architect, speaker, and an all-round tech energizer. This guy is a LinkedIn energizer bunny. He is all over the place, 24/7, in the best way possible. With over 20 years in digital transformation and a whopping 25 Salesforce certifications, Scott's known for turning complex ideas like AI and API integrations into things that actually make sense and definitely excites people. He's passionate about mentorship, branding, and making sure technology feels human, which is totally perfect because that's what we're all about at the Customer Commerce Podcast. When he's not energizing teams or contributing to Salesforce initiatives, you'll find him outdoors or fueling up on espresso, probably thinking about his next big idea, which he has right there, the idea and the espresso. Scott, welcome to the pod.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, everybody out there in Commerce Connect for taking the time, right, to listen to this podcast, which is, I hear, phenomenal, and then also to my perspective on whatever questions I get asked in the next few minutes. I really appreciate of you guys taking the time out of your day to pay attention to everything that's happening in tech in the fourth industrial revolution. Welcome,
That's
everybody.
Right. You can definitely tell this isn't scripted when the guest says whatever questions I'm going to get asked in the next 10 minutes.
That's how it should be, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, you're going to catch them flat-footed and get the real data.
That's right.
Exactly. Well, it really is a pleasure to have you on, Scott. We've heard many great things about you. You're, like I said in the intro, you're basically everywhere. I think you're just going to trickle into all areas of the world. And I feel like everyone will eventually know Scott Stafford just because, especially in the tech world. You've been in digital transformation for over 20 years. That's a long time. You really know your stuff, I'm assuming.
Right.
And you have 25 certifications in Salesforce. Tell us, how did you go down that route of Salesforce and tech? And what have you learned kind of through that journey in the last 20 years?
Yeah, so you kind of mentioned two things there. So you talked a little bit about digital transformation. Yeah. And I actually think that we're taking that to the next level. We actually have digital transformation kind of going with an AI twist. So it's kind of like AI transformation. So for me, quite a few years ago, I was involved in all the companies that were learning to go through the transformation process, taking all their traditional assets, digitizing them, and then looking for new opportunities. Right now, we're basically saying the same kind of thing happening, but with AI. Basically, you're adding an AI overlay to everything that you do, right? So whatever your business is, you want to be able to interact with that functionality or workflow through an AI lens. So that is what's really exciting for me. I love AI. And the more you learn about it, the more you get excited about what it's going to do for society and allowing us to act more natural, the more you're going to get excited as we move through this podcast. It's amazing.
You know, Scott, you're completely correct. I mean, this next few years is going to be intense in any way that you look at it from a business and a transformation point of view. A lot of our listeners are small to medium businesses, and if you know anything about a small to medium business, the number one thing they don't have is time or attention, right? They just don't have enough of it to do all the millions of things they're required to do. How should someone like that even approach this AI wave? Is it like let it play out a little bit and then jump in, or do you think they have to be a first mover, or what do you see that happening, or what advice would you give to them?
Yeah, I think the technology is actually going to unfold pretty fast. So what I would suggest people doing is at least exploring it. Tap into like a business analyst or another company advisor out there to try and see if there's any use cases in your company for actually using AI. Even if you don't do anything at all, right? You'll get an education of what is possible, and you'll start to be able to see that AI lens that is going to be covering pretty much everything. So it's just kind of like what we did with digital transformation. The saying before was, if you are not a technology company, whether you were in that line before, they're saying you're going to be out of business. The same thing. Everybody is going to be somewhat an AI company. You're going to probably have some type of AI solution for the interaction. And we'll get into that probably a little bit more as I talk about AI voice and what that's going to do for the interaction between people and why it is so exciting.
I think it's like, and correct me if I'm wrong from your point of view, but in the 80s, there's that famous clip of two people talking on the news, wondering what the @ symbol was in the email address, right? Because they just had never seen an email address before. And just like back then, your local plumber wasn't an internet company, but they now have a website. And if they don't have a website, they're out of business. I see this sort of going in a very similar type of direction. And that took, 30, 40 years maybe to get to that point. But I reckon the AI thing is going to happen in like 5 or 10.
Yeah. And I think it's actually, it's really exciting, right? So if you have a company, what you're doing is you're looking for an agentic solution to be the overlay. You're still going to be doing a lot of the business the same way that you used to do, right? I mean, if you're a plumber, you're still going to be going out and fixing the pipes and stuff. But the way that your customers are going to be interacting with you will be more automated, more efficient, right? And in a lot of cases, a lot more human-centric, in my opinion.
Can you explain what you mean by agentic, though?
Agentic is an agentic solution so that it allows an agent to do multiple steps of the interaction.
And an agent is the AI robot, basically, I'm trying to really break it down for a plumber who's never really they've heard of this AI thing, and they've heard people talk about this word agentic. But then what does that actually do? Like, what would agentic actually be if you broke that down for someone?
I think the great thing about agentic is it allows for the solution to be able to take actions for you. So when you were traditionally starting to think about AI, you would say, hey, you can use ChatGPT. I imagine a lot of the people in your company went ahead and played with ChatGPT, and they said, hey, this is pretty great. It can write a love story for me. Right. You're like, hey, that's kind of fun. That's useful, right? I'm not sure if I'm going to actually use that or not. But now having it be able to take several actions. So what it actually does is you write it a task, and then it analyzes that task, and it creates a series of steps that it would need to follow to do that. And then it works backwards to make sure that it has the right workflow to carry those out. So that's really what an agentic solution, that's what Salesforce Agentforce does. I mean, you give it the task, and then as long as it has the appropriate workflow appropriated to it, it will carry out those tasks and then takes care of a lot of functions. So it's kind of like doing one task, but now it's able to do multiple tasks for you, for the customer.
Right. So it's letting the AI actually do work as opposed to the existing what everyone might already think around ChatGPT of just answering direct questions.
Right. I like to think about it if you were trying to plan a trip. I'm going to Yosemite. And before you might have said, hey, give me hotel information. And it would just do one task. Now with an agent, you could say, plan my trip to Yosemite. It would say, okay, what do I need to do? The first thing it would analyze, you're going to need a rental car. You're going to need reservations in Yosemite Valley. You're going to need to check the weather. You're going to need to get a backpacking list. It's going to carry out all of those steps, right? Mm-hmm. And then summarize it for you. So it's doing quite a few steps for you and basically getting you ready for the whole trip, which that's amazing. It's an agent, it has agency, and it takes care of a task for you. Incredible.
Wild. I can't even imagine being in high school or in university doing essays and the amount of help that it can give. I mean, there's lots of pros and lots of cons, as everyone talks about, but if you look at it from wanting to really understand as much as possible about whatever you're doing, it's incredible because it can ask you questions back and say like if you prompt it, ask me any questions that may help me improve blah. It's like, if you were writing an essay on something, who's the blah, when did blah, all these things that you're like, oh my God, yeah, I can find out more. It's crazy. I want to know, we will get into the AI part and the future of it, but I want to kind of go backwards a little bit, because you're so passionate online, and I'm sure in the real world as well. I only know you online. Where did the passion come? Like, what, give me like a specific age and moment in time for you where you were just like, technology, like, I love it. Because there's two types of people, and I feel like I'm actually in the kind of grandpa style of like, oh, far out, another thing I gotta learn. God damn. Just let me give like a Instagram square picture. Let me take a photo of my meal and let's be done with it. you know, why do you love the innovations of AI and technology? Where did that first start for you?
I think for me, it really started back in high school. As
Wow.
we were going through a major, the whole .com thing was starting. And it was really excited. I was following it, but I was still in high school, so I wasn't able to participate in a working capacity. I just got excited. My parents did buy a computer. We played around a lot. But as I, really relished that time in my life, right? When I realized that we're going to be going through a similar time right now. This is magical. I'm like, this is my moment, right? Where I could be part of everything that is transforming, turning around. Every minute there's something new. It's exciting. And I've come to realize that AI, the makings, the architect, the way it works is far more fun than actually what it does. It's kind of like what Elon Musk says about a Tesla. And it is true. Teslas are incredible, right? I've had a few Teslas. Cars are just amazing. But the factory itself and the way that everything is made is far more incredible. The same thing I think is true with AI. AI is just incredible what it can do. Use your chat GPT in voice mode. It talks back to you. But as you learn more about like what we are building and how we're building it and where this is going to go, you start to get excited. You're like, wow, this is a moment in time, right? That is going to transform history, and you get to be part of it.
You know,
Right? That's
it's
incredible.
it's a really interesting thing. The number one question I've been asked by people about AI is, am I going to lose my job? Right. And there's definitely fear of the unknown. And I think it's a really interesting thing. No doubt there are going to be some job losses. Absolutely. With the self-driving things that are happening with cars, long-haul truck drivers, that job could go pretty soon. There's a bunch of these sorts of solutions that will definitely displace large number of people. But at the same time, I think there's such an opportunity, because what AI will do for us is massively increase the agency of every single individual on the planet. It'll become a time when you don't just have, like currently, every person on Earth has the world's knowledge in their pocket,
Right.
pretty much, right? If
Mm.
you own an iPhone, you have the entire human knowledge available to you if you know where to look.
Right.
But that's the challenge, if you know where to look. And what is going to change very soon is you won't have to know where to look. You just say, hey, I just saw this thing on the side of the street. It's a blah, blah. It reminded me of Blee Blee. Can you give me the top 10 research points about that? And how could I apply that to make money? You've had this very nascent idea about something. You ask an agent and it just goes and searches petabytes of information, distills it down to what you need, gives you that information, and then you can say things like, good, can you plan a trip where I need to go and visit the 4 top factories? Tell me where they are. How do I go about doing this? It's incredible. Like, the agency at a human individual level is just going to multiply out massively. And I think that's where the opportunity lies, and it's going to be incredible. And every person is going to be able to, like every person in my company is effectively going to have an unlimited team of agents that are able to help them do their job. So the
Mm.
productivity is just going to go through the absolute roof.
Yeah, I think there was a news title that I saw that was the Shopify CEO saying that, he's not going to be hiring anyone unless his current staff can prove that they can't do, they can't do that without AI.
Yeah, I saw that as well. I think
Mm.
I want to try and address both of your questions. She started out with talking about earlier a student and how magical it is that you can have AI actually quiz you on your notes, right? And then for yours, you're kind of looking at how magical this is and what's going to happen with workers. And I want to kind of mix those together. So along with what she was talking about, you see a lot of ads right now on LinkedIn by Copilot, right? By Microsoft. And they actually show a student. And if you look very carefully, the student is actually trying to show that they're going to talk to the AI. So how magical of a moment where you could actually put your lecture, have the AI listen to the whole lecture and just sit there back on the couch and say, hey, quiz me. And she is passionate and excited to be quizzed. But that's a key. Not everybody is excited to take part in this. That's what we need about society. I mean, I'm loving it. Like every single minute, it's like I'm on cloud nine, right? But I do walk around different places. I say, well, some people are not even engaged right now, right? There's homelessness, and they didn't find a passion for it. There will be new jobs. That's the jobs of governors and presidents, right? They will help us to create jobs, right? There'll be lots of opportunities beyond what we can imagine, kind of like what happened with digital transformation. We didn't know what was going to be created, but it's just incredible opportunities. But we have to really be excited about the new tool, right? It is a new tool and it can do magical stuff. And I'm very excited and passionate about being able to interact with technology with voice. Because for a society that has been, let's say, been getting more depressed or, has been inside their house all the time, now you can literally go out and use your iPhone and talk, right? And actually create stuff. Many of the articles that I create online, I actually created back and forth with an AI assistant, generated the picture, everything on my cell phone, right? While I'm half walking, jogging on the floor, the whole thing, and posted it all right there on my cell phone. And there's just so much you're going to be able to do in that capacity. So it's an exciting world, but at the same time, you did address an interesting point. How can we keep people curious, motivated, and excited about opportunity in life, right? That's been our challenge the whole time.
I feel like that's a deeper topic because it really is a mindset. Like if you had a business owner here right now, they could definitely probably argue like, it's too much. I either just want it to do everything for me, in which they lose their actual own ability to think and write and come up with ideas, because I'm sure you can absolutely get lazy on it if you want to. Well, what's the point? I can just get this online dude to do it for me. And then when you're in person, you start losing the social abilities. You start kind of doubting yourself as your own person. What would be like your advice if a business owner, or I don't know, someone's just kind of like, I don't feel that passion to create opportunities. I just want to get a bit, they're not going to say lazy with it, but I just want it to make my life easier. But if it's going to go down that spiral of then making the human less capable, how do you fix that?
Well, if you think about, let's just pretend this is the new calculator coming out. So we have a new tool, right? Back in the day, you probably have seen a lot of the movies that everybody used to do math by hand. The calculator came out, and in many of my classes, it said, don't compete with the calculator, right? You'll lose. It can do math. I can do math pretty fast, but it beats me every time still. I think you should think about that with AI. It's going to be able to do a lot of things, but there are certain skills, right, that are human skills. Empathy, compassion, curiosity. AI is right now on this phone, right? ChatGPT-4, right? Advanced, it can talk, it can do amazing things. But unless you have the curiosity to ask it the right questions, to go back and forth and iterate to find that amazing answer that you're looking for, right? It will do nothing, right? There is unlimited number of questions that you can ask ChatGPT, and there's unlimited answers. Right? It goes, it's in a different kind of relationship than with other technology. You will not ask all the questions and you won't get all the answers. It's up to us to be curious. It's up to us to inspire. That's what we're doing right now. We are actually showing the new world, right? We're in a technology wave. We've created a podcast, and we're looking to inspire people to get them excited about the future. That's a human skill. That's what we will be doing more and more in the future.
Yeah, that's something that you and Michael definitely have in common. Michael's just written, when is it going to be released, by the way? Customer commerce book.
Pretty soon.
Okay.
I'm on the last chapter. So yeah, but the first tenet of that book is be human, right?
That's what it's all about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times think about what it is to be human, what we want technology to actually do for us and what we don't. I was down on San Francisco and I met up with a girl and I got really excited about robots. And I told her, yeah, at Stanford, they're actually washing the dishes. And she's like, I'm not sure I want it to wash my dishes. I enjoy that task. And she goes, would you want it to eat your food for you too? And I'm like, well, no. But do you see how you got to kind of think about what do we want it to do for us now that it can do so much, right? And then what is best for us to do as humans? And then how are we going to motivate everybody to be part of this amazing opportunity?
Yeah, the person should always stay self-determined first. I mean, talking about Salesforce, because that's kind of how I know you, is with all your toys and your robots in almost every single video. It's a big question, but where do you see Salesforce moving, or where do you hope that it's moving? Because it's growing so much, so fast. Like what are some new things? I'm sure you've had so many different ideas and, predictions. What are some of them?
I'm really excited about Slack and that environment. So we're right now in a competition, right? Everybody's building agents and Salesforce is going to be releasing their number compared to the competitors. But all these agents that we have are going to have a place to interact. They're going to act between each other, right? You're going to have a place where Microsoft agents talk to a Salesforce agents, which talk to a Home Depot agents. And then how do we see actually, the correspondence between those? And that's a great place for Slack, right? Where everything's going to come together. So I'm really excited about envisioning as I see Salesforce lately really starting to tease out the idea that we're going to bring more voice into Salesforce. That'll probably be the big announcement, I believe, at Dreamforce next year. They're already perfecting that. It will allow, I think, a lot more human skills to come out, right? Within, and I think that seems like it's a problem in society. I mean, I remember back in the 80s, everybody was very social, right? It was really easy. And I go sometimes to conferences and I'm like, what happened? They just, if you don't use it, you lose it, right? And I want to see us using it again, right? Now that we have the technology, hey, I wouldn't mind being in a conference or something and you're doing your work, but you're just doing it on a cell phone. You're like, well, okay, I'm dictating back and forth the latest financial results, right? And then it somehow could, shoot it up on a 3D screen or something, and you would say, okay, there it is. And then I would say, okay, now we can interact, right? You're getting your work done and we're having that human correspondence between each other. I think that's really important. But for Salesforce, it really is an exciting time. I mean, because Agentforce it's a pretty cool platform, right? We're able to bring that AI overlay. We have all that still amazing workflow functionality with all the clouds, right? Still very incredible, right? And then just so much opportunity. New jobs. I mean, how many new jobs is it to build agents, to modify agents, to do analytics to see how well your agent's doing? I mean, lots of functionality needs to be brought to the surface, right? There's lots of opportunity out there for people and for your businesses, right? It's an exciting time because you're going to be able to concentrate more on what your customers want. I have one example that I think is really amazing. I had the opportunity of interviewing a company called Lexington Capital Holdings. They provide loans, right, for big companies, small companies. And one thing they've been able to do more and more is they bring in llamas. They bring in all kinds of human experiences to people that visit their office.
Like actual llamas, not large language models?
No, llamas. Like, do you remember when a long time ago in like the 60s or 70s, you would go to the dentist and he had that human experience and he would give you your child a lollipop.
Yeah.
Right. He had the time to do that. Or you would have that moment where someone could take some special time with you. And then work kind of got busy and everybody concentrated on the work. Yep. They're like going to say, hey, things are so automated now. We actually have 30 or 40 minutes that we can give you a human experience, right, with the staff. And I think you're going to see more of that where you go like, okay, you went to this business and they have time to, hey, we could take a break and you can hear my son's violin for a minute or two, and then we'll finish up the loan paperwork. I think you're going to see a magical world. Isn't that what we're already seeing? Think about our world. We have TikTok. Humans are literally becoming actors and performing, right? You would have never thought of that in the 80s because we were always busy doing work. So if that carries forward, there's going to be more of those human skills coming out and surfacing in weird places, kind of like TikToks, or you'll see companies offering more of a human experience before the work gets done. And I think that'll be fun. That'll be magical.
Yeah, I need to go to this place that has llamas.
I'll make sure that I send you, because they actually show, right, the whole company, and they're bringing in the llamas and everybody. It's incredible.
I mean, that's such when you really think about it.
Can we top that for the rest of the podcast? I don't know. I mean,
actually, if you really think about it, like people are like, oh, how do we become unique and differentiate ourselves?
llamas.
Grab some llamas and pet pigs and chickens, and it's like instantly.
I should have brought one on. If I would have brought up my pet rabbit, I could have answered that question. Yeah, it's about the human thing, and I could have had a rabbit. You'd be like,
a little rabbit.
But isn't that so interesting? Just to kind of have a little tangent. The minute an animal comes into, like if you have an office, everyone's on their laptop and they're staring or whatever. The minute you bring a puppy in the office, it's like, wow. Like humans want to feel connection. And I don't know if we're just over each other or it's a bit bland.
right.
And AI can kind of go like, oh, is it going to be even more bland? And I think that's where the creatives and the innovators go, cool, how can we do both? How can we rock at both?
Right.
So for small businesses who aren't super technical, I want to know, because there's lots of businesses
they have to get a llama. Like, is that the takeaway? All small businesses need llamas now. No. Okay, good.
If you put yourself into the shoes of someone who's not, and they're just finding out who Salesforce is, which is, I found out only a year ago, and I was like, this is a huge deal that I had no idea existed. What would your advice be to a business owner to start to definitely know about in the Salesforce ecosystem? Like, what would be your beginning point of, like, if you're a small business and you're now wanting to scale and you're now wanting to really hone in on that organization with your team, this is what I would recommend as your starting point?
I think I would start out first by actually just talking amongst your business. What would you like, right, technology to replace? What are those mundane tasks, right? In all of our job, there's certain things that I enjoy doing. I enjoy creating some media content, but I don't like the post-it, right? I enjoy, what are those parts of the job that you like and what are the parts that you don't, right? Start to identify that first. And then I would encourage people to watch a Salesforce, Dreamforce presentation, like watch the keynote and then actually see what Salesforce has done, right? It was incredible to see the solution that they had for, I think it was for SaaS. Yeah, it was just incredible. But before you even get exposed to that, just don't look at it first, right? Take a minute yourself to see if there's even a need, right? I mean, in everybody's day, there's probably some part of you would say, I don't like to do that part, right? I mean, this is kind of mundane, right? I love when the customers come in, but in the end of the day, I always find myself staying after for 2 hours, filling in that paperwork or jotting those notes down of, how that interaction was. And you're like, if I don't do that, I'm going to lose track of what happened that day because I have so many clients coming in. And you're like, okay, I don't like that, but I loved being there, being excited, getting motivated, telling them what we can do for them. Now, if AI can do that part for you, right, then that would be a solution. You'd be like, yeah, it's actually now able to listen to the call and it summarizes the notes so that it's all organized. And now you can even, ask it to query it with semantic search. Say, hey, what did I say in the middle there? And be like, well, that's like the icing on the cake, right? I don't even have to go back and read those notes anymore. I just asked for the point that I wanted. But you probably want to start to, because you're not in this new tech world. So you kind of think, what are the pain points, right? I thought about that with my Yosemite trip. I said, well, what parts do I like to do? And there were parts I like to pitch the tent, the practice pitching of the tent, right? But I didn't necessarily like doing all the research of like, what's the weather going to be like, or, whether the campsites are all full. Let AI do that part, right? I'll have the fun part. Like once you gave me the list, to call my sister and get her all excited and say, hey, we're mocking out the experience. So that's my advice.
I can
So
tell.
find the mundane and work out how you could get that replaced, and
Right.
just enjoy life more as a result.
Wouldn't you agree, Michael, that there's in every task, every job, that there's
Absolutely.
some part that's mundane, right?
Yep.
There's one part we always say, I don't particularly like doing that. Same thing in high school. There was parts you loved, and there was parts you're like, nah, I don't like to do this part, right?
Yeah.
And let's let AI do that part, and let us do the fun part. Keep the part that you like, because it's probably the more human part, right? If you take my example, the interaction between me and my sister and pitching the tent and building the excitement, that was a human, characteristic, right? The other part, the research, that was kind of like boring by myself just on a computer. I didn't really need to do that.
And if you did have one piece of advice that you'd want to give to those small business owners, like just straight off, they're overworked, they're overwhelmed, they don't know where to approach or start, what do you think would be the thing that they should do now?
I think I would really take note of where you are overworked and look for a solution. So even for myself, I had to do the same thing. I had to evaluate, right, what I was doing that I did not want to do. And my emails were coming in too much. And I said, okay, this is check one, that I want to be more efficient. What can I do, right? And then I said, the AI is coming at me so fast, it's hard for me to keep up. I said, okay, how am I going to solve that? I sought out some thought leaders. I said, okay, let them do that part, and I'll just read their article, or I can just have AI actually just sum it up for me and do it while I'm jogging. So I found ways to make those parts not such a challenge, right? And then I thought about it and said, we've been through this before, right? Technology has come in before, right? The can opener arrived, so many solutions. So the tricky part is you got to cut through all the noise, right? And that's what your show is so magical about. Cut through the noise, right? Listen to the people that are summarizing up for you. Don't do extra work that you don't have to, right? And then concentrate on where you can bring value.
Lovely.
Scott
Thank you very
Stafford,
much.
thank you so much. See you guys later.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us today. We hope you had an awesome time, leaving you with ideas on how to improve your business and wow customers. If you'd like to leave a real customer's story, head to the link in our show notes and cuss away. Love the show? Please subscribe and leave a review, because that enables us to help more businesses in building real relationships with customers and grow more rapidly. See you next time.